Big blind versus small blind, continuation betting in 3-bet pots. So small blind raised, we are in the big blind and 3-bet, small blind calls, flop comes and small blind checks to us and we have a decision to make what to do. So on queen 7-6 with 2 spades, we don't have a spade, we have king 5 of nothing. Well, I think this is one where we could either go big or check, and I think checking is one of the likelier options, which is why I'm going to go with that. It was not the favorite one, but it was all right. And now with the ace coming, and he checks to us again, I think at this point we can go for a bet, and I would go rather big, 50%, and this was not great. And we'll see now what happens on the river. He checks, and we now have to go for another bet, I think, after all this. Let's go 85%, which is a blunder. And we get called by ace 10. So I want to check again what we should have done. So actually, we could have bet really small quarter pot here. Okay, that's good to know. And then on the turn it would have been just a check, so it would have wanted to check it down, I guess, and yeah, on the river checking again. Okay, next hand. This was not a great one, but let's see. Queen 8-4, so I think now it's quite similar. We can go with a quarter pot bet. I think this is, well, this is wrong again. And now I think we can step it up a bit. Let's go bet 75, which is not wrong, but still not great. And now with a king on the river, I mean, he shouldn't have a lot of kings there, but I still don't think that we can get called by that much, so I'm happy to check, and check is indeed the preferred option. I just want to see, okay, on the flop, we should go either 50% or 75%. The EV is the same. We could even check, we could do whatever we want, we could even go all in and we would hardly lose any value, so I think that is fine. Ace 4 on ace 8 6. This is another one where we could go with a check or small. I just can't think that we would want to go big on this one. I will go with a check in this case, and this is indeed the right move. With the queen there, I think we want to check now, because there is no reason to bet this hand, and yes, that is indeed the case. And now we're feeling pretty good about our hand, and I think we might want to go for value, because we can still get called by a lot of hands like tens, nines, sevens, fives, although thinking about all that, there's actually not that much, and we don't have a lot of, yeah, we don't beat a lot of ace X, basically nothing. So we can only chop with them. So now actually I think I want to just check, but you see, check is the absolute wrong one. I want to see this now. So checking was fine, and look, bet 10% would also be an option. So I can see a pattern, and we can bet quite small here. This one was a check, and on the river it wanted to bet, and yeah, but look again, like the EV loss is absolutely tiny, and I thought against this opponent who just plays perfectly GTO, I would not want to reopen the action, but it does want to do it, even though it is only for half a big blind. So, okay, very interesting. 7-5-4 with King Jack. Well, normally this would be a big bet or check, but I don't know, big blind versus small blind might not be that great. So I think checking, can't do anything wrong, and yes, indeed, 100%. Now we get to face this quarter pot bet, and we are in position, but we basically have nothing. So I think this is just a fold, and yes, it is indeed a fold. And he had a set. Well done. Just want to see on the flop again. Yeah, I mean, it really is a range check. Next hand, ace queen on 10-7-3. think we can just check this one. If we wanted to bet, maybe 25%, but yeah, check is fine. On the king, if he checks again, I mean, it definitely hits our range, but we have the nut no pair now, and the question is whether we can get him off a pair. So I think check is good, but no, the solver does not like checking, and now against the overbet, this one has to be a fold. But let's see again. So check on the flop, or yeah, 25% or even 50%. On the turn, it is a pure pot-sized bet. Yeah, because we also have the gut shot and we have one over. But yeah, I mean, I'm not that convinced. But again, the EV loss is marginal. And on the river, well, because we should have bet pot on the turn. Solver never arrives on the river with this one. Okay, ace 9 8, we have ace 3, so this is another one where we should go check or bet 10%, I think. So check it is. On the turn, I would like to check once again. And on the river, so we've seen this one before, and even more so now that we haven't bet at all so far. I think we have to go for value, and we do indeed with 60%, and he folds king jack. But I do want to see on the flop just in general what we do, because yes, with this hand I know what we're doing, but we still check, yeah, 57% of the time, and if we bet, we prefer to bet 25% of the time. So, next one, ace deuce on 3-3 deuce. Yeah, this doesn't really hit our range much. Now, with this exact hand, I would like to bet small just to clear out some equity. A hand like queen jack suited, for example, I'm very happy for that one to fold. I don't know if solver thinks like that, though. I will bet this one 25%, and it's not a mistake, but not the preferred option. Now on the 7, I think we have done our protection bet, so we can check, but again, it's not exactly what it wants. And I think on the river we do have showdown value. Yes, the king hits our range. He doesn't have a lot of kings, but will he fold pocket eights or something like that? I doubt it, so I want to check, and indeed it's 100% check, and he got the king there on the river. So I want to see here again. Yeah, so it was between checking and actually betting bigger than 25%, but 25% was not a mistake. And on the turn, it was also possible check 25% and 50%. And it's interesting that with ace deuce on 3-3 deuce 7, if we should, after we bet the flop, it wants us to bet 50% on the turn again. Don't really see the reason why, but okay. And then on the river, it's a pure check back, but again, EV wise, not a massive difference. Okay, on this one we have absolutely nothing, but the board is kind of good for us, but I know it's not a range bet. We do have some back doors though, so let's go 25%. And he folds. He folds pocket 7, so that is a good result, but we got a pretty poor score because it really wanted us to check, but you can see like anything is possible once again. A6 on 9-5-4, I think I want to check this one, and that's what solver does too. Here we now have a gut shot and ace high. I think against a normal opponent I would just fold, but I think here we kind of have to call, but no, it does not like calling. Okay, well, and now obviously folding, but we made a blunder on the turn because we can either fold or raise, just not call. But as you can see, I mean, we were ahead, but he bluffed us off on the river. Okay, so ace king on queen 8-7, we have a flush draw, we have two overs, we have a backdoor straight draw. On this one, I think we can bet 25%. We can, but it's not the preferred option. Now with the ace, we're definitely continuing to bet. I don't think we have to go too big. Well, we can still go like 50%. And now we make the nuts, and obviously we have to, well, it's not the nuts technically, no, it's absolutely not the nuts, but we definitely have to call, and he was just bluffing. Just want to see the flop again, so check would be the preferred option, and with range it also likes to check, that's why. Okay, so I've chosen pretty much the most difficult spot in poker almost, because it's so little studied, but I just wanted to do this, and I haven't studied it a lot myself, to be honest, but I'm studying it now. So let's see then how this continues. So yeah, I would have liked to go a bit bigger, but yeah, fair enough. I'm okay with that. And on the river, it's an easy decision. Okay, King Queen on King 9-8. This is another one where we would like to normally bet small or check. I think I will bet this one. And we get called. Now we have top two pair. Jack 10 gets there, but still think with two flush draws and the straight draws, I am going to go big, but it didn't quite like that. Okay, so it would have liked us to go even a little bit bigger, but it's absolutely fine with a 25%. And what do we do with range? We still check a lot. So as you can see, there are hardly any range bets, big blind versus small blind. And on this turn, well, it would have liked the over bet, but basically any bet is good as long as you don't check or go all in. But even though like all of the EV is pretty much the same. Right, next hand. Kings on ace jack 7. Well, I think with this hand we want to check because as we said before, there are hardly any range bets, so I think this is not one either, and we do indeed want to check. And I think now against this is tricky against pot-sized bet, and he could still have some bluffs, obviously, but I think this might be a fold. I mean, it's close in any case, and folding is fine. And yeah, look at this. We lost against, would have lost against the nuts. So on the flop, I just want to see again. So it is a 65% check once again. Good to know too. And on the turn, it's a fold or a call. I mean, it's mainly calls, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, ace 3 on 4-3 deuce. I think we would want to do a lot of checking so with our range, so I'll do a lot of checking with this hand as well, even though it was not the preferred option. And now I don't see a reason why I would want to bet after I checked the flop, but it does want me to, and I still don't think that we have any value. Yes, we can get called by something like ace jack, but I really don't want to, so I will check. So this one was fine, but I don't know why. So on the flop, let's see again, we do, well, we're checking less on this one, weirdly, only 47% rather than the 60-65 we had on previous flops. But with this exact hand, we would prefer to bet small. Okay, and then on the turn, I don't quite get it why we don't want to check. But again, we want to just bet small. And then on the river, it is a 100% check. Next hand, Jack 9 on Jack 9-8. Ooh, a tough one. We have top two pair. I think in general we don't want to bet that much, but this hand can definitely mix some bets. and we can probably even go like 50% here. And yeah, it's not a mistake for sure. And I think now we just keep pounding. So we're gonna go 75%. And now on this river, I think it's a bit thin now. You can't really bet. We only have half a pot-sized bet behind, but I think it's a bit thin. Like, what are we gonna get called by? There's not much, I think. Yeah, I mean, another jack, but we block jacks. And so I think it's a check. It doesn't like it, but I think in real life this is definitely a check, but it doesn't want it here. Okay, so let's see. We're checking 67% of range, and therefore we also check this hand. And we have 75% bet on the turn, and on the river it wants us to go all in. Yeah, I mean, maybe he doesn't have a lot of queen, but he could have queen jack, he could have queen 10, then we would already have been pretty dead before. But yeah, I still think against humans you want to check back in this spot because it's quite thin. I don't really see a lot of hands that would call me, but against solver you can get away with jamming in this spot apparently. 10-6-5, we have ace high. I think this is another board that we don't want to bet a lot, so just checking. The overcard would be, yeah, a little bit okay for us, I guess, but I'm happy to check it again. And now we have the ace on the river, and once he bets third pot, I think there is nothing else for us to do than to call. And we lose to straight once again. But yeah, just checking on the flop. So again, 60% roughly range, 60% of the range checks, and therefore we check with this hand as well. Let's do a couple more. King 3 on ace jack deuce. So we said earlier this is by no means a range bet board. We should check a lot. We don't have a backdoor flush draw I want to check, but again, this one was not great. And I think now we have to bet, but yeah, because we did a move that was wrong on the flop. Now we won't see a result, and I really want to see. I'm curious about that. So it just bets big on this one. So we do check 22% of the time with our range, but with this hand we check 0% of the time. Now let's look what hands check. So a lot of hands that have good showdown value check, but basically everything that doesn't have showdown value likes to blast it. Okay, jack deuce suited on a6-4. No backdoor flush draw, but a backdoor straight draw. I think again this we would want to check. Again, not the preferred option. And so on this turn, now we basically have to bet because what else are we gonna do? So I'll go 100%, and we get called, and now we hit the jack on the river, and I think this is our get out of jail card free. We can check, and but we still lose to two pair even actually. Wow. Okay, so we would have bet about 70% of the time, so that's why it would bet, and it would bet small. That's the main one. Okay. Ace queen on 9-8-6. We have two overs, but I still think this one doesn't really favor us much, so I'm happy to check. Yeah, and I think now we have two overcards and nothing else. I think this is a fold, and again, it does not like the fold at all. I don't know why really, because again, against humans, I think this is a fold, and yeah, we are losing against ace-8 anyway, but it doesn't like it. So we're checking a lot, so that's fine, good to see. And here it just says call is definitely superior, but I'm not so convinced about that. But obviously I'm not arguing with a solver against another solver that is fine. Otherwise, it wouldn't do it, but against humans, I'm not sure. Okay, let's do this and one more. Queen 9 on ace ace 5. Again, normally 3-bet pots you would bet small. I'm not sure here. We can still bet though, and I think we can bet 25 or 10%. I'm gonna go with 25. Yeah, that is the main bet. We get called, and I think we can now try to blast again 75%. Well, it doesn't like it, but we do get the fold from a slightly better hand that would even have improved on the river. So it is 20% check board, but we can bet, and with this hand we definitely prefer to bet. We could even go a little bit bigger. And on the turn, it does like to bet, but not as big. Thinks 50% is enough. That, but okay, not a mistake. And last hand of the day, pocket queens on queen 10 deuce. Well, I guess that's kind of an easy one because there are not many ways how you can mess this one up. But let's think about what range would want to do here. I think range would want to mainly check and bet kind of like 25%, maybe 50%. So I think I'm happy to check, but it's not the preferred option. Now he bets 10%, so I think we have a mandatory raise here. Not entirely sure to what size, but let's say to 55%, and it just wouldn't do that. And now we have a house on the river, and I think we have to shove, but because we made a mistake before, it doesn't give us a score for that, but let's see on the flop again. So check is not bad, and as I said, 25 or 50%, so I would have liked to bet bigger, but as we can see, actually, no, look, we hardly check, so this is close to a range check, a range bet, sorry, and that's why range bet big, even 50%, not range bet big, but most of the time we bet big, over 70% of the time, and that's why interesting to see this. Okay, and then on the turn, well, I should have just raised a little bit bigger, but okay, I mean, EV loss is basically the same. As long as you don't fold the nuts here, I think everything is kind of okay. Calling would be a bit silly, yeah, but raising pretty much anything is fine. And then on the river, I chose the all-in size because we want to get paid, and we did get paid. So thanks for watching. I hope you've learned a thing or two. Bye.